What's up, folks? This is Addy Ads, and we have a great guest tonight. It's Mr. Will Turbitt of Fake Mike Real News, and we're going to talk about how he got to doing what he's been doing in the independent alternative media and how that's evolved since he started. And I want to thank you for coming on the show, Will. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, and that's a dope intro you got too. It's like I've seen it on your YouTube channel and stuff before, and but being backstage while that goes, it's really well edited. The music's well done. It's dope, man. It's really fresh.
I appreciate that, Will. Yeah, thanks, man. It took a while to work on. Could you beef up your introduction, if you could, for the audience, for people who may not be familiar with your work, how or why you started doing this, and if this is what you do, or if you have another gig, and highlights, some career highlights too, if you could.
Sure, yeah. So, I stumbled down this rabbit hole. It was actually pretty weird. So, like the year 2002, I was outside of the DMV in Rhode Island, and the DMVs obviously are notorious for having terrible service because it's run by the government. So we took a ticket, and then we went across the street to smoke a blunt, me and my friends and my ex at that time. And then we started talking about stuff, and I don't really know where I got any of this from, but then I started talking about some stuff about the dollar bill, right? And I was like, huh. And for whatever reason, the word Illuminati came up. And to this day, I don't know where I got that word from. I don't remember what put that word in my mind and what made me do that. It was weird. Then a few months later, anywhere from like 6 months to like a year and a half later, I was like, all right, I'm scrawny as hell. I need to work out. So I went to go work out, and I threw on this Wu-Tang Forever CD, disc 2. And they have this track called Impossible. I believe it's called Impossible. And on that track, Riz is talking about third eyes and microchips and testing poison in prison population, and you guys says, thug people on some hardcore body-ish, get your shit together for the Illuminati hit. And I was like, oh, damn, that's that word again. And I was like, damn, that's weird. So it wasn't really till like 06, like in the infancy of YouTube. And I typed in YouTube, Illuminati. And I watched back then when you could actually get results. And it was limited results because, it was the very beginning of what YouTube was. And I watched every single video. And then I would find, oh, this is somebody's name. And then I would watch every single video of that. And they'd be like, then they would reference a book, and I'd buy the book. And so a lot of stuff was like, oh, the 9/11 and the Federal Reserve and Bohemian Grove. And the first thing when I heard about Bohemian Grove, I was like, there's no way that's true. There's no way a bunch of guys, the world leaders, at least here in the U.S., dress up like KKK members and carry torches in front of this owl where they do a mock human sacrifice. I was like, that just can't be real. And then I went and found Time Magazine, right? I'm like, wow, this is real. Like, this is some real stuff. So then it was a process of a few years. And one of the things I highly focused on was 9/11, because I was like, all right, let's see what's really going on here. Building 7 was a major red flag for me. But I spent about 2 years checking both sides of like the debunking. And after about 2 years, I at least came to the conclusion, well, the official story is not correct. You can go read the official 9/11 report online. It's not correct. It doesn't mention Building 7, right? And 6 of the 10 commissioners have also commented publicly that they don't agree with the findings of their own commission. So that should tell you something.
Yeah.
Then I heard David Icke say, when you know something is going on, you have a responsibility to do something about this. You have a responsibility to inform people. You have to tell people what's going on. You have to warn them. So I took that real serious. And then I was kind of like a little bit overwhelmed. So I called all my friends, my family, old high school teachers, and we all met at the local college library over here. And I was like, yo, I just found out all this stuff. Can we swear on this, by the way?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, go for it.
I wasn't sure. Okay, cool. So I was like, damn, I just found all this shit out. Like, damn, what's up? I can't do this by myself. What are some ideas? What can we do? And that was like in '08. And since then, I have basically done everything non-violently within my power to try to shed some light on these subjects that people don't talk about as often as we should, things that are overlooked, things that are detrimental to society as a whole. And that's taken a number of different avenues. I've done a lot of activism on the streets. I've done a lot of protests. We do like a lot of homeless drives. We did park cleanups. Then I started doing radio shows. I started from like a small radio, really, really, really small radio show out here in Rhode Island. And just because it was a radio show, I was able to, and I had that thing behind me. I was able to book some pretty cool guests. We were able to. I've been fortunate enough to interview some really dope guests on my show, and that kind of gave me like the appearance, the perception that I was more legit than I really was. And so over the years, I've developed a nice roster of guests and contacts. I also do confrontations. So I've done a lot of confrontations as far as like highlights, I guess, confronting Hillary Clinton before anybody was talking about Jeffrey Epstein, about her husband flying around, made international news a few times, confronted Joe Biden like 4 times, made international news a few times then, telling him to stop groping kids and keep your hands off women. Uh, been interviewed Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, got the last interview with John McAfee, been fortunate enough to get the last few interviews with Jordan Maxwell, who I rest in peace, everybody F in the chat for Jordan Maxwell and Harambe. Fritz Springmeier, been collaborating with him a lot recently. But CIA whistleblowers, NSA whistleblowers, the type of people that you interview. But to me, it's still like amazing because I'm starstruck at these people, you know? And it's like, wow, these are the people that I admire. These are the people that shook me out of my coma. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to discuss things with them. And I've been able to work with a lot of people, and Chris Don T. Harris too. He's another dude in this movement who I've been fortunate enough to work with too. And that's the thing, like some of the people that we look up to are just, some of them are exceptional for sure. They all are, but they're just people like you or I that didn't give up. And like people like yourself, people like Chris Don T. Harris are the legends of tomorrow, the people that are already doing work. So it's humbling to be able to work with you guys and alongside you guys. And you said, hey, you know what? How do you like to be? What should I call you? You know? And I just said, I'm a dude. You know, I'm just, my goal, if I could sum everything up, the mission statement of Fake Mike Real News is to create a more altruistic world through nonviolence and the Socratic method. And I don't always adhere to my own standards, you know, but that's the goal. That's what we're shooting for.
Okay, excellent. And if we could go deeper into that, how and why did you pick the Socratic method? If you could explain the reasoning behind that, and if you want to explain the process as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just questions, right? So, and I think it's, you know, this was what, 3,000 years ago. This was created, and it's the best way that two people or multiple people can really find the truth. Like if anybody's really interested in finding the truth, this goes for left wing, right wing, people like us. You have to go through the Socratic method. That's the only way. It's also useful in debates as well because you can never lose a debate if you use the Socratic method. You can only learn more information. So the Socratic method is just asking a series of questions. Hopefully, if you really want to change somebody's mind, you can try to elicit yes questions, kind of like a lawyer would do, but not as stern or demeaning. But for example, right, someone says, "Oh, well, I support Hillary Clinton." "Oh, well, why do you support Hillary Clinton?" "Oh, well, because I think that the Democrats have the best vision for the future." "Well, why do you think that the Democrats have the best vision for the future?" "Well, they want to provide health care for everybody." "Oh, I also agree that people should have access to healthcare and quality healthcare as well." "Why do you think that the Democrats would provide the best healthcare?" "Okay, why do you think a government would provide, knowing that the government has done X, Y, Z, why would you think that they would be the most efficient?" Just try to get gears going in their own head. And I watch a lot of stuff about cults, right? I've been fascinated by that stuff, like anything from Scientology to Christianity, anything in between. But we take for granted that so much of our life is almost like a cult, right? The left wing, the right wing, they're cults themselves. Religions, they're all cults. They're cults of ideologies. And I was listening to some dude, and he actually had deprogrammed a few cult members, and he said, "How?" And they were asking him, "How do you do it?" And he's like, "Well, you can never convince anybody of anything. You can't tell people facts, convince people just by saying facts. You have to get them questioning it themselves in their own head, and that's what the Socratic method does." And I also just recently reread How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it says the same thing, right? And I actually spent many years in this movement basically yelling facts at people, thinking it was going to change them. But what I realized only a few years ago, and it's pretty obvious stuff, is people don't make decisions based on logic or facts. It's based on psychology, emotions and feeling. And
Sure.
so I think the Socratic method is the best way to do it because it gets gears flowing in people's head. Actually, as a matter of fact, quick shout out to Adam Kokesh. If you watch Adam Kokesh's old videos, he'll go to a Hillary supporter or a Bush supporter, and he does a perfect job of demonstrating the Socratic method in real time, and he'll turn somebody from a left wing, a right wing, a ex supporter to, oh wow, actually maybe I don't support that person. And so that's why I think it's like the most effective thing that we can do. It took me like 18 years to figure that out, but
Wow. Wow, yeah, that's amazing because it does seem to be the biggest obstacle in many ways is not so much getting the right information, but persuasion of other people.
yeah, and that's what it's about. It's really like I had spent so many years uh, memorizing facts and connecting dots, but the real thing that I have been studying lately, the last few years, has been rhetoric because that's what we need to do to wake people up. You can have the best facts in the world, but if you don't have a hook, if you're not at least trying to be charismatic, if you're not trying to be engaging, then nobody's unfortunately going to listen to what you have to say. And so and especially in this new era of the censored social media, you really have to craft your message in a way that's going to be not only palatable to people, but also sneak past the algorithms, So that's a difficult thing to do. So that's what I've been trying to do over my channel. My first channel got banned. And so on my new channel, I've been a little more crafty. I've still gotten a couple strikes, but I've been trying to be a little more crafty with the way you present the information because that's really what it is. And that's why there are certain people in the movement too. Even before I became a part of the movement, I was like, I'm not going to say any names and hate, but we're like, you're kind of making us look bad, And it could be the way you talk, the way you act, and I'm guilty of this too. That's why, like, when I'm pointing the finger, there's all these pointing right back at me. Because, like, if you guys just go to a random video on Fake Mike Real News, there'll be a lot. There's even people in the truth movement that are like, oh, this is what the modern truth movement is. Will is harassing a bunch of cops just doing their job. And there's certain issues, right? And I could be a polarizing figure, but I'm a person that matches energy, right? So I'm gonna even the people I dislike, I go up to them preemptively to be nice too. Like when I go to confront somebody like Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, I'm like, hey, I love you, hey, because you want to get them to stop. You want them to take a picture, right? And then that's when you can give them a softball question. And then after the softball question, then you hit them with the slam dunk. It doesn't usually happen that way, unfortunately. But in order to get that close, you have to be nice anyway. So I'm usually nice, but there are times where I match energy. So,
Right, right.
so
No, that
I'm
makes
guilty.
sense.
I'm more guilty than half the people out there. But at the end of the day, that's why we need as many people to come forward and speak as possible and not just have to rely on people like Addy all the time, is because one, there's strength in numbers, but two, Addy's extremely effective at what he does, and he's been able to accomplish a tremendous amount that I'm envious about in such a small time. That having been said, we could use your help. And imagine if we had a thousand Addy ads. I mean, it'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And for everybody that loves Addy, there's going to be one person. Oh, I don't like Will. I don't like Addy. I don't. There's something about him. So we need somebody like you out there that people will listen to. That doesn't make a difference whether you're like a PhD or if you're just a regular dude. Certain people respond to certain things, and we need as many voices speaking out as possible.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, hopefully I can keep it up. And yeah, I was gonna ask you because you've actually done a variety of things as well, whether it's the auditing of the police or the the confrontations, with politicians. Which your cover photo, I believe, is you confronting Kamala Harris, I think,
Yeah.
which is a pretty awesome photo. I don't know who shot that, but how did you yeah, how do you decide to do stuff like which events to cover or which sorts of independent media journalism to do? Is it kind of just what you enjoy doing, or is it more so based on your political philosophy? If you want to get into that too, you can.
Sure. Yeah. So my political philosophy is voluntarism. And as far as what I choose to do, it's really a mix of things because I've been an activist now for many years, and for the majority of those years and up to the present day, well, currently, I right now I'm working two jobs. The few years before that, the last 4 or 5 years, I was traveling. I was with Auditing America. He has a rather large channel. Shout out to Auditing America. Everyone go like, share, subscribe over there. I have really cool videos over there. Uh, but then I realized that as as dope as that was, I needed to take it up another notch. I was neglecting other projects, and I have a few people that are in my life, two or three people that are financially independent, and how I define that is they can do whatever they want whenever they want. Pretty much, they're not Rockefellers, right? But they've been able to attain financial freedom. So I'm buckling down. I'm going to be working here. Hopefully, everything doesn't collapse in the next couple of years. In the next 2 to 3 years, I'm going to be saving up and using the blueprint that these gentlemen have laid out, and I'm going to try to do that while I do my activism now. So now it's just like I do what I can when I can't do it. Before, it would really depend because one of the easy ways to do it though is just go on. I was inspired by people like Luke from We Are Change. The confrontations that he did. I remember watching those back in the day, and I was like astonished. Like this guy is the man. Like, and so shout out to Luke. And I was like, wow. And then I just started locally in Rhode Island with a lot, almost everybody. I was like, all right, well, there's 535 members of Congress. I live here in Providence, Rhode Island. Rhode Island's the smallest state. I was like, all right, if I get enough activists people or people awake here, and so I went through and I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out everything about these local politics. I might not be able to master everything on the national level, but I was like, so I made a file of every state senator, every state congressman or woman, uh, the AG, the governor. And I still have it. I've got all the mainstream links to them, the statements they make, their finances, everything. And I would go through all legit sources, and I actually learned a lot doing that. And then I would call them and I would email them about the DCYF, which is our version here in Rhode Island of Child Protective Services, Department of Children, Youth, and Families, DCYF,
Okay.
because we've had a lot of missing kids in Rhode Island, and it's suspicious. And I've had the majority of people, and then I would go up and then I would confront them when they don't answer the emails or they don't answer the phone calls, right? And so then I remember being very excited catching the governor, Gina Raimondo, who was the governor, but she's also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Aspen Institute. She's met Clinton in in college, and now she's working for Biden on the national level. I don't recall her position. And then I just like, all right, well, shoot. Then I started becoming a little bit more aware of, all right, so there's all these political events, especially when people are trying to get elected. Maybe not so much so, but when people are trying to get elected, they have dinners so they can have fundraisers, right? So it's like people never show up, but then I was like, oh, all of a sudden when they want to get elected, they have all these fundraisers and they have all these events. And so here in Rhode Island, I'm only like 2 hours away from New Hampshire. So New Hampshire has like the second primary, I think, in the country, and it's one of the most important. So this last election season, I was just able to go up to New Hampshire a few days, and I was able to confront Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard twice, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden twice on that trip, and it's just so then when I go to another city, or I'll just go through Facebook events, I'll go through Google events, I'll see who's speaking where, and especially around election time, man, it's easy to catch these people. And then recently, I say recently, it's probably about a year, almost a year ago now, because I actually grew up. You're in DC, I believe, and I actually grew up in Maryland, like 15 minutes outside of DC. So I grew up there, and then I've also come back several times, and I love DC. DC is one of my favorite cities, and I've taken the Capitol tour, where it's like you go through, they show you a couple things, and they tell you, and then at the end they give you a movie from sea to Shining Sea and Grains and Stars and Stripes, and it's like but they don't take you to the actual chambers where they give the State of the Union next to the giant symbols of fascism. They don't take you through any of that. So a few years ago when I went to DC, I was like, all right, well, the Capitol building, you can't really go in there. It's just, you can't go walking around that place, and it's they hide it pretty well, like those areas. I still don't know how to get into those areas, like into the hearing rooms, but I do know the buildings adjacent, those 2 or 4 massive office buildings. That's where all the congressmen and the senators, they're chilling. So I took a road trip last year, and I stopped in DC for just 2 hours. And on all those buildings, in the buildings were closed down due to COVID, but I was able in the span of 2 hours to confront 5 congressmen, interrupt a press conference that was live talking about pro police, and then confront the Irish ambassador in 2 hours, because they're all just out there. They're all just right there. Like, people don't realize, like, you can, and hopefully, I don't know if hopefully those offices are back open now. You'd hope so, but people don't realize how easy it is to just ask these fools some questions, because they got to come out of that building. They're going to catch an Uber. They're going to get their driver. They're going to go find their car. And you can ask them a question right there. And you could embarrass them too. So they're there, folks. We need to be a little more active. And I say go for the phone call, go for the email, be courteous, First, ask them about it, but then if they're not answering your questions, you go to your state house, you go to the Capitol, bro. Peacefully,
Okay.
of course.
So you say first step would be, reach out via email or phone call, and then, then you can confront them in person, right?
You can still go confront them. If you're mad about
Sure,
something, go confront
sure.
them in person, right? If you get the opportunity, go ahead and do it. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? I mean, for a while, I was just like, all right, what can we do with the government to try to make DCYF, CPS better? It's weird when the people that are supposed to be, that are entrusted with protecting the most vulnerable populace, are doing a worse job. They're literally doing a worse job than the bad parents. They've literally killed more children than the bad parents abusing. They've abused and they've lost more children than the bad parents. So how are we paying you to do a job, and you're doing it worse than the people that we're supposed to be protecting them from? But I do not believe at this point in time, nor do I'll keep an open but skeptical mind. I just don't think, there's a number of solutions, right? And different strokes for different folks. It depends on the person you are. I still don't know what the most effective solution is, and there's something that I've given great thought to. I've interviewed. Every time I interview somebody, I say, well, what are the solutions, right? And I've heard some good solutions, but to me, I think the most important solution is we need to share Addie's videos. We need to become the majority. Until we become the majority, it doesn't make a difference. Now, there's different ways you can go about doing that, but we need to share the videos. we need to make it a point to. I remember one time I was working at Nike back in the day, and there was like probably 200, 300 people that worked there. So on the Saturday, I was like, all right, this is years ago. This is like 10, 13 years ago. I was like, all right, there were so many people on a Saturday. Sometimes you never see those people again. You know what I'm saying? Like, people work a holiday or whatever, part-time. So I was like, all right, there's like 30, 40 people at work today. I was like, I'm going to tell every single person I talk to about Building 7. And I did. And the next week, I came back, and only one of the employees was like, nobody else mentioned it whatsoever, but one of the employees was like, "Yo, I checked out that thing you told me about Building 7. That's crazy." I showed my dad, and my dad was like, "Yo, that's really weird." But just one voice, just even one person. I mean, that's what we need. My famous 3-step plan is: one, wake people up; two, nonviolent activism; three, eat vegan tacos. It's really simple. But we're just not at the point where we have the majority of people awake, and they're still under these spells, unfortunately. And it's really our duty to keep waking them up, especially with everything that's not only gone on. I've been pleading with people, hey guys, things are getting pretty bad. We need to do something. And then the pandemic hit. That was all before the pandemic. And then we saw people getting ripped apart from their families and arrested at funerals. People getting arrested for going to church. That was before they took the last bit of freedom that we had. So yeah, I mean the time is now, especially hey, it's hitting people in their wallet too. With inflation's crazy. So, but the good thing is, no matter what, just because of the inherent immoral nature of government, they're going to continue to to push people to our side because they always have
Mm.
a negative effect. In all my years interviewing people, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, oh, what got you started becoming an activist against CPS? Oh, well, they stole my kid. Or, hey, what made you start talking about the? Well, my baby was back. And so, just the nature of what it is turning folks over to us. But I would really implore the folks at home to get this video out, get all of Addie's work out, share with everybody through email, text, Facebook, everything. Send Addie a donation. I mean, this guy's not. He's not. He doesn't have George Soros money. He doesn't get anything from Now This or The Blaze or Rebel News or anything like that. He's just a dude out there doing something because he sincerely believes in it. And we need to get this information out to as many people as possible because yeah, we're turning people over, but this is a race to the finish line. And unfortunately, it's more than just pride at stake because if they beat us to the finish line, well, then we're in a Neuralink Ready Player One pod Matrix Skynet. But if we win, then we get vegan tacos. So I'm just saying, consider your options, folks.
Right, right, yeah, and I wanted to, and we discussed it actually a bit when we met first digitally on Chris Don's show. But what do you think about? Uh, I mean, was it ever possible to make money telling the truth, to fully support yourself, or do you think that's not ever been the case and never will be?
That's a great question. So even before this, I had a friend of mine who had before, like I'm talking about 2014, 2015. He was a truther on YouTube, and he was making 4 to 6 grand a month as a truther. And then obviously
Wow.
that's not the case now. He that doesn't happen anymore, right? His channel was actually saved from the bans, which was cool, but he was at like 90,000, and now he's still like at 90,000. So he didn't. So they just hit the off button on him. Now, one of the only, well, I don't want to say the only way, but one of the ways that you can make money with activism is auditing. Now, auditing is a great place because it's the only form of activism on YouTube that is not censored, and not only is it not censored, it's promoted. So the only reason my channel is still on the air right now is because a lot of them are auditing videos, and it's messed up because I just did a video earlier with a bunch of cops, and that video already has more views than the video I just did the other day with G. Edward Griffin. Right? So that sucks, right? But the thing about auditing is this, right? So I met, because like I was telling you, I'm out here in Little Rhodey. So my thing was like, hey, I would have meetings of people like of anybody that I knew who was an activist. I would go on Twitter, Occupy. When Occupy was trending, I would type in hashtag Occupy Providence or different hashtag Tea Party Rhode Island or hashtag whatever Rhode Island. And go on Facebook. Anybody that liked to comment, that was boom, friend request. And so I spent years doing that and reaching out to other activists. And so I had a little group, and then we started like meeting up. I was like, it was called Meeting of the Open Minds. We just go to a bar or a restaurant, get a whole bunch of us from any type of activist, and we put our heads together and try to try to figure things out, and that's something also too that people can definitely do in their neighborhood. I completely lost my train. Oh yeah, so the auditing. So I was like, yeah, so I knew all the activists in Rhode Island. Then all of a sudden somebody comes on the news and it says man arrested for First Amendment. No. I didn't even know what auditing was then. It didn't even say auditing. I was like, who is this dude? How come I don't know him? You know what I'm saying? There's like 4.5 activists in Rhode Island. You know what I'm saying? And I'm 2 of them. So I was like, who is this guy? So we met through a mutual friend, and he was explaining to me what he did, and I was explaining what I did. And so then that week, he was like, all right, let's go do some videos. So I was like, all right. So we did a video. I didn't really know what the hell was going on. I was doing it like a report, like, oh, this guy, First Amendment, and he's testing, And then he was like, yo, that was cool, dog, but that's like, we don't want to let him know. And I was like, okay. So then we went to another police department. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's 8 cops surrounding us, and we get arrested. I'm like, yo, this is not cool. Like, I didn't even do nothing here. Like, boom. So, but he was the only person around that was willing to help me and go out to these things. So when he wanted to just really film the cops mostly, but I would go to where the politicians were. And so one day we went to this place where there were some senators, like Rhode Island senators, U.S. senators, Jack Reed, Cicilline, and a whole bunch of people for an anti-gun event. So we went over there, and me and him just took over that event. And because he was like, so I was like, yeah, I love this. I actually have someone to go out and do this with. So what I've tried to do, and shout out to Auditing America, go subscribe to his channel. It's got a humongous channel. I have a lot of hundreds of exclusive videos over there. Some of the dopest videos I actually will give is just give them to Auditing America because I know they're going to really reach a much wider audience. And so I'm like, yo, bro, everywhere I go, there's going to be cops. You know what I'm saying? And so like one of the first times we went to DC, I was like, yeah, you've audited police stations before. Have you ever audited the Pentagon? Have you ever audited the NSA? Boom. You know what I'm saying? What about that? So needless to say, I got detained at the NSA. That was quite, and they deleted our videos. That was my favorite video that we ever did. That was really unfortunate. Just the background alone pulling up, and it just looked so picturesque.
Wow.
That was crazy. Yeah. But yeah, the auditing is a great way to do it too. There's a lot of different approaches, and that's one of the things. So long story short, over my years with Auditing America, and just by continuing to do audits, we'll do a video on something, and they were like, oh, you can't film in here, or something like that. And we're like, well, that's interesting because we have the First Amendment. That's something we don't even need to have adjudicated, but it's been upheld many times. Meanwhile, the NSA has been illegally spying on us for 10 years now, and you do nothing about that. Or people will be like, oh, you can't have a camera. It's funny how you're so upset about me, a dude with a whisk in my hand, my camera. But all these government cameras are watching you right now, and the NSA is creeping on you right now, and you're not upset about that. So my goal would be to try to take this large audience that is there in the auditing community and kind of infuse it with nuggets, and that's because there's certain things that you can't really still say. There's things even on my channel too that we use code words for, because as we were talking about earlier, if I just come out and say certain things, then my channel will never be seen by anybody. My goal is to reach people. So
right,
I'm trying to be a little more crafty.
Right, and that's obviously, the thing you poke in your body, and then what other stuff? I mean, stuff related to 2020, as that's in my experience.
You don't want to talk about that.
Yeah,
for sure. Let me, and I'm going to tell you guys, because I got banned. A lot of my friends got banned. So I'm going to tell you guys things to never, ever say. Just don't say.
Okay, yeah. Break it down.
You never want to say this word that starts with this letter. You never want to say it. You don't even want to say the euphemism that you think that you want to say. You don't want to say
right. Right. Okay.
Medical misinformation is a real deal. You don't want to talk about that. I would,
Yeah.
and even this, if this is what I've been working on, and this is what I'd really tell people to do is, and there's other ways to do this too, not only just auditing. One of the easiest ways to get a channel out there, and I plan on doing this in the near future too, but please, other people do this too. One of the easiest ways to get a channel and get it monetized and get a lot of eyes on it is economics. So you talk economics, you talk your perspective, and then you also can say things like, well, did you know that the Federal Reserve, you definitely don't want to talk about, how do I say this?
You can just say it. Well, I just won't
Yeah,
play
no,
this
you
on
definitely don't
YouTube.
want to talk about the president's son. You don't want to talk about
Oh, okay. Okay.
his devices for sure. Uh, that got a lot of people taken out. Any medical misinformation.
Yep.
Also, I went really hard at the nerd, the Microsoft nerd,
Okay.
who
Yep.
and Joe Biden too. I also went really hard at Trump. Actually, I have a funny opinion that actually Joe Biden's a better president than Trump. Most people don't like that opinion, but I actually stick to that. I'll debate that with people, but yeah. So that's the thing is you can use these things to your advantage, and that's what we have to do in the landscape. You know, because like Addie was saying before, like I was telling you, like my boy was making $6 grand a month telling truth there, but you
Yeah.
can't do that now. And
That's
it is,
amazing. Yeah.
and it is too. And it's crazy because YouTube was such a organic, fertile landscape for activism to flourish, and we had a whole new class of activists that were out there because you should get paid for your work, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But unfortunately, now people, I mean, there's the good and the bad. So some people that were in it just for the money, they've been weeded out, right? There's some people that you used to hear about them all the time, and you don't hear about those people anymore. But also, like it's crippling to people, right? Because like I had to go through hoops to go to the last Bilderberg meeting when it was, well, not the last one that was in the United States. I mean, people don't realize the struggles that Addie Ads or Kriston T. Harris has to go through just to cover these events, just to be there at these events. So I really encourage people to donate to Addie because he's not somebody that, like I said earlier, he's not wearing any makeup. He's only got a teleprompter in front of him telling him what to say. He's not getting money from the foundation or, he's not getting any of these money from any of these people telling him what to say. And that's really what we need to have this flourish again because I mean, eventually the MSM, they're going to go out of business. They're losing their grip day after day after day. And people like yourself are in a position to capture more of their audience once they realize they've been lied to so profusely by these folks, and that's why we got to stick it out too. But it's really a tough thing to do to be an activist in today's landscape, and it makes me admire people like yourself even more because like not only are you making no money from doing this, I mean you're not making it. I mean, you might get some donations here and there, but that's not like a net positive. It's not like you can go buy a house or a car. And I appreciate everyone that's donated to me, and I even more appreciate everyone that's donating to Addie. Links in the description below. Make sure you tell them Fake Mike sent you. But it makes it very difficult to do some of these things. I remember when I went to some of these events, and it's like it would only be me and a couple people there, and it's like, bro, this is like Bilderberg. You know what I'm saying? It was me and Titus Ross, and then Chris Don came down afterwards, and I'm like, there's not even the mainstream here. There's not even alternative media there, and they're able to silence us through things like that. But also, I admire people like Addie because not only is he not making money doing this, but it's not. This is not. This is not a surefire way to win friends and people say some mean stuff to you when you go and do this, and it's not an easy life. Just kind of becoming an outcast, but it also shows a sign of real conviction in one's beliefs and morals. So I really respect you for everything that you do, Addie. So guys, definitely donate to this fool right now.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Will. I really appreciate that. And likewise, please go support Will. His links are also in the show notes and the description. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm kind of taking week by week at this point, because it's so daunting and demoralizing to look far into the future and not see really any means for growth or opportunity for growth. For that and other reasons, not just the field that we're kind of in or that we find ourselves in. But yeah, how many times have you been arrested, Will? And do you want to talk about any of those stories? The NSA arrest, for example. I don't know if you want to go into
Yeah,
further
so the
details there.
NSA, I was technically not arrested, I was detained, but basically the NSA, we had a trip down to DC and we audited the Pentagon and it says no filming all over that place. I was really nervous at that place right there, but we we audited NASA down there because they have a NASA area in DC. That was really funny because first they audited it, and then that was back in the day when I used to wear a suit, and I did this little video where I was like, a little clip. It's a short. It's on my YouTube channel, and it's so fun. I did the short, and I'm like, hey guys, and the video starts panning down from the huge NASA logo and like the security barricades and and then it pans down to me, and I was like, hey guys, I just got kicked out of NASA for confronting scientists and exposing the flat earth because that's the biggest problem in the world. It doesn't make a difference about human trafficking. Who cares about the illegal wars and loss of our freedom? The most important thing is the flat earth. And I still have people to this day that didn't realize the sarcasm, and they'll share my video on Facebook. This heroic young man from the United States just got kicked out of NASA. Da, da, da. So yes, and then at the NSA we had this crazy trip. That's when we right after we confronted Hillary Clinton, we're driving home up back to Rhode Island, and I'm like, "You guys ready for one more?" And so I drive off the exit to the NSA. We pull up, and it's like a Sunday morning, and there's like nobody in the parking lot. Right? It's weird. And then you have the silver metallic building behind you. I get off. I do my typical spiel. What is going on, folks? Will Turbitt here. Fake Mike, real news. Behind me is the NSA. Boom, da 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 da. I was like, they got caught. Blah 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 blah. They're spying on us. Then NSA cops roll up, and they were like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here?" Da da da. And then I was like, "What are you doing here? What's your name and badge number?" I was like, how seriously do you take your oath to the Constitution? Oh, very seriously. I was like, well, right behind me is the largest violation of the Fourth Amendment I've ever seen. Let's round them up, boys. And they were like, all right, get the heck out of here. Da, 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 whatever, right? So we get in the car, and then we're going, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get pulled over by the NSA police, then 2, then 4, then 8 NSA police. They come up to the car, right? And he's like, oh, get out the car. And I'm like, I'm not getting out this car, bro. I was like, I know my rights. He was like, I know what you think you're doing, but that's not working here. He pulled one of my boys out of the car, pulled my other boy out of the car, grabs me out of the car. I'm like, okay. They detain us. We get in handcuffs. They separate us, asking us different questions and all that stuff. Funny enough, I'm sitting under a tree, right, detained, and I have like a black tee with a little pocket here, and an acorn falls into my pocket, and I made some joke like, "Did you guys plant that on me?" Da da da. He was like, "Oh, you better careful. It might have a listening clip in that." And I'm like, weird. So they took my, I don't know what. So I'm sitting there. I have 2 NSA cops. My boy's over there. He's got 2 NSA cops. My other boy's over there. They got 2 NSA cops. We're on federal property and we have weed on us. So they were like, you guys are this close to going with the FBI and this and that. And I'm like, I wasn't filming. I was just on camera. They gave him $200 tickets for filming, which is illegal. And they said if we even said anything about it within the next year, that they would press charges. Now that year is up. And I was so mad because we never stopped the video. We were live there. We weren't live, but we were recording there. We were recording when we were getting pulled over. We never stopped the video. The guy took the videos from my boy's phone and deleted them. And they were like, oh, who's this kid talking about me? Oh, let me see this video. Let me see this video. And my boy was trying to tell him, because most cops typically lean right. He was trying to say, "Oh, we just confronted Hillary Clinton," and you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's why they let us off. I don't know what happened. They gave them tickets, and I was detained. I was able to go home, so I was happy about that because I've been. You asked how many times I've been arrested. I've been arrested. Hmm, I don't even know, but a bunch of times. And the crazy thing is, I just actually yesterday I had my last case dismissed. And I have one case over my head now too that's been waiting. They're scared to put it to trial. It's been in the waiting for a year, over a year and a half. I got arrested before the pandemic at a protest at the state house on video from the state house and multiple other videos, doing nothing wrong, literally nothing wrong, speaking my piece at the state house. And they know I didn't do anything wrong, so they're dragging me out. I had another case that just ended yesterday where I was going to cover Proud Boys Antifa rally in Boston. And on the way there, I seen like 15 cops standing on the corner before the actual event, nowhere near. And so I like to ask police, what's up? What you guys working on today? And then they act like a D-bag. Sorry about that beeping. I don't know.
No, that's all right. That's
I'm
right.
in the hood, man.
Yeah, you're in Rhode Island right now.
Providence, Rhode Island. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
So I'm sorry. What the hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, being arrested. So I'm over here, and so yeah, the Boston cops were all up against the wall. I'm like, hey, what's going on? I started asking questions about the Constitution. One of them's a captain. He's like, oh yeah, keep filming. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep filming. Boom. And then the captain turns around, smacks the phone out of my hand, tries to push me to the ground, knocks my phone to the ground. I'm like, what the hell? And then he says again, keep filming. So I'm like, I didn't expect him to do that. So then I'm like, yeah, I will keep filming. And I kept filming for a few other minutes, right? You know, I'm talking shit too, right? And then I was talking shit to these other officers, not really talking shit, like half talking shit, half like righteous indignation, saying people, women, men, women, children have given blood, sweat, and tears for this. And how dare you not even know your rights? You guys are the standing army that our founding fathers warned us about, whatever. And then the captain comes around, boom. And this time I was ready for it because I wasn't, I'm not expecting anybody to like hit my camera. This time I'm like, boom, he tries to push me to the ground. I'm like, no, I'm just holding my point. And then like all these other officers jump on me and they get me for like disorderly, right? And when they're reading this in court, like they're like, yeah, Will, and they're reading it like it's bad. Like it's Will Turbitt was asking questions about the Constitution and stuff like this. I've even had in other police reports, people will say William Turbitt, aka William Turbitt, comma, First Amendment auditor. And you would never see Addie Ads, comma, painter. You would never see Thomas Smith, aka Baker. It's not in the police report. And the funny thing about it is it's like, hey, this guy's a First Amendment auditor. So in the year 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, the fact that I have First Amendment next to my name is a negative thing. Should tell you the place that we're in. And one of the things that I would like to say, since we're talking about the First Amendment, is I've spent, the last 4 or 5 years, and I'll always go up to cops and I'll be like, hey, so first of all, butter them up real good. Hey, thanks for your service. Thank you so much. I was like, hey, they'll be like, how seriously do you take your oath to the Constitution? They'll be like, well, very seriously. I take it very seriously. I was like, oh, that's great, man. I appreciate that. And I used to ask them, what's the Third Amendment? And they would never know. I had one cop get it. Shout outs to the boy in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. I forget his name, but he got it. And it was a big high five for that one. But then my boy was like, yo, you keep asking about the Third Amendment. Ask them about the First Amendment. I'm like, bro, they're going to know the First Amendment. Like, come on. Like, that's going to be too easy. I'm gonna look stupid on this one. So I did it. And the last year or so, on my channel, and Auditing America's channel, I have asked dozens, getting close to probably 100, maybe 100 at this point, but between dozens and 100 cops. Hey, and I've tried a couple different approaches. One is, thank you for your service. I'm like, hey, and a lot of times I'll wear a backpack. You know what I'm saying? Because I got my laptop in there. I got my notebooks in there. I got my books in there. Every once in a while, I'm there. You know what I'm saying? It's legal. I can have that. Yeah, I got that on me, right? So I got my backpack on, and so like, I'd be like, hey, I'm just going back to school, and my professor says I have to ask one cop if he can tell me the 5 parts of the First Amendment, and I've yet to get one cop to get all five. I've got two cops to give me four. And it just in the interactions with police in general, you'll see their general disdain. What's your name and badge number? It's right here. Just a general disdain. Then the fact that, according to a recent study of over 50 years of police's own data, that police didn't solve 98% of major crimes. Police don't, I've documented myself, police don't know the Constitution, so they can never protect your oath if they don't know it. They're actually trained to do the opposite. So they don't solve crime. They don't protect your rights, and they're not polite and courteous. And as in New York City alone, $9.9 billion annually just on the NYPD. Now, I personally believe that maybe if you had private security, that might be a little more effective if they had some accountability. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah. That's amazing, amazing stuff there, Will. And I'm curious, why do you think the audit videos don't get taken down or don't get demonetized or censored? Because maybe I might look into doing that now.
Yeah, you should, and I would love to help you with that because I know really what to do. I could help you out with how to choose a great thumbnail, a great title, and what you want to put. Like, I'm a whirlwind genius when it comes to that, at least that. But that's a great question, and in my lay opinion of psychology, I think people have always been fascinated with the interaction between the general public and people of perceived authority. That's why I think shows like Cops have been on the air for 50 years, you know what I'm saying? And then went off the air for like 10 days, and people are like, bring that show back to us. We need that. And also it's like a kind of another paradigm, right? It's another divide and conquer paradigm, us versus the police, you know what I'm saying? And I think, and also YouTube, I love YouTube, and they're of course very progressive, which I agree with, and they're more on the left side of the spectrum. So they don't agree with the police, in which I agree with, and I love YouTube. So that plays into their ideology. But what you can do with but you would be surprised. And it's really interesting because I've been in this auditing community for several years now, and I can't put my finger on, there's no one ideology. It's not like they're mostly leftists that watch it. It's not like they're mostly righties that watch it too. It's a very interesting demographic. There's a lot of like old school constitutionalists, and there's a lot of random people too. So the trick is, it could be, first of all, I think there's that general psychology at play, but also I think there's the divide and conquer. And again, people need to realize that as bad as police are, they're going to try to come in with some United Nations robot police. That's what the next level is. There's predictive policing and robots. That's already what's going to happen. My thing is, I think that they may want some divide and conquer so they can bring that in. My thing is, hey, we both agree we want to abolish the police, but I want to keep them abolished. I don't want to bring in United Nations trans robots to patrol us. I just want to end the police, and then people want to have private security. That's fine, right? Because not everybody's comfortable handling a weapon, and that's fine too. But instead of being extorted for a police service, which 98% of the time they're not going to do their job anyways, well, maybe you can take back that $9-10 billion alone in New York, and then you could hire somebody if you're an old lady, just drive around with you, sit in your yard with a gun, and then you'll be good, because that's a lot more effective. That's a lot more effective, in my opinion.
No, that's something that I tend to lean that way too, Will. And unfortunately, at our time here, I really hope we can do this again soon, because I didn't get to all my questions, and I have more to ask you, which hopefully you'd be up for that. But where can people find you before we play our outro here?
Yeah, very much appreciate you having me on. Love to have you on my channel too, and definitely we'll talk behind the scenes about auditing. And also, you're going to let me know what's up with any activism going on in DC ahead of time, or anything that you're going to, let me know. And thank you. You've been a gracious host, and I appreciate you allowing me to promote Fake Mike. That's MIC Real News on YouTube. Please give me a like, share, and subscribe. I'm on Instagram, Fake Mike Real News. I'm on Twitter, Fake Mike Real News. $, Fake Mike Real News on Cash App, Fake Mike Real News on PayPal. FakeMikeRealNews.com. Check out FakeMikeRealNews.com. My website, I just started renovating that too. I'm pretty much on every platform. The best way to help me out is go to Fake Mike Real News, my YouTube channel, and I also have another channel called Demand the Truth, where I put my spicy stuff, Demand the Truth. That's where I go up to Bill Gates' house and I have an interview with America's #1 death investigator about Jeffrey Epstein's death that he doesn't say on CNN or Fox, and he's on all those channels. So go check out Demand the Truth. But yeah, the best way to help me out is to donate to Addy Ads. And in lieu of a donation to me, please donate to me by sharing my videos. Take my best videos from Fake Mike Real News and Demand the Truth and get those out to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Thanks to the audience. Stay frosty, folks, and we will see everybody next time. The independent
Thanks,
media
brother.
and journalism you can trust is running on fumes. As a result of technocratic censorship, the tragedy is that hardworking independent journalists who have ethics and integrity are considering leaving the field of journalism. For as little as 3 cents a day, you can support my independent journalism media career at buymeacoffee.com/addyads. Thank you.